The largest corporation in history had no product, no factory, only faith and gold. For centuries, one institution controlled Europe's entire flow of money. It taxed every village, financed every king, and touched every purse. This was a borderless empire built on belief and balance sheets. But how did a house of prayer become the world's first financial superpower? It began with a simple demand: give 1/10 of everything you earn. This was the tithe, the medieval world's universal tax. Every local church became a collection hub reaching into Rome. No government on earth had a tax net this wide. The wealth flowed upward, church by church, toward a single throne. But tithes were only the beginning of this empire's revenue streams. The church also owned land, vast estates across every kingdom. Nearly a third of Europe's soil belonged to the papacy. Peasants worked this land, paying rent to distant bishops. Monasteries became the factories of the medieval economy. They produced wine, wool, and books, all sold for profit. Then came a darker innovation: selling salvation itself. The indulgence promised to erase sin for the right price. Fear of hell became the ultimate sales pitch. For coins, one could buy years off their time in purgatory. A monk named Johann Tetzel became history's greatest indulgent salesman. His slogan rang out: "When the coin clinks, a soul from purgatory springs." These sales funded the rebuilding of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Salvation collected in Germany paid for marble laid in Italy. But moving this wealth across Europe required a banking revolution. Carrying gold across bandit-filled roads was slow and dangerous. So the church pioneered paper credit, letters of exchange. Deposit coins in one city, withdraw them in another with a signed note. Italian bankers rose to manage this vast papal fortune. The Medici of Florence became the Pope's personal financiers. The Medici Bank held church accounts in branches from London to Bruges. Papal collectors traveled every road, ledgers in hand, tracking each debt. The church invented double-entry bookkeeping to master its endless accounts. Every payment was recorded, every soul's debt to Rome calculated precisely. Kings borrowed from the Pope to fund wars and crown their heirs. When rulers failed to repay, excommunication became a financial weapon. To be cut off from the church meant ruin, both spiritual and political. The papacy could topple a throne without ever raising a sword. Diplomatic immunity shielded papal envoys in every royal court. These legates negotiated treaties, loans, and marriages across borders. The papal treasury, the apostolic camera, tracked income from all of Christendom. Its officials functioned like a modern finance ministry, centuries ahead of their time. Special taxes flowed to Rome, including Peter's pence from distant England. Annats claimed a bishop's first year of income the moment he took office. Church courts charged fees for dispensations, granting exceptions to holy law. Even marriage between cousins could be permitted for the right donation. The Jubilee year drew pilgrims to Rome, each spending gold on the sacred journey. Their coins filled inns, shrines, and papal coffers alike. Relics of saints became magnets for wealth, displayed to paying crowds. Each holy bone or fragment turned devotion into a steady stream of revenue. The church also ruled the seas of trade, blessing merchant fleets for a share of profit. Monasteries became vast estates, farming grain, wine, and wool across the continent. Monks were early industrialists, running mills, forges, and breweries at scale. Their surplus was sold in town markets, feeding the church's endless income. The Church owned nearly a third of all land in medieval Europe. This land paid no tax to kings, an empire within every kingdom. Interest on loans was banned as usury, so bankers disguised it cleverly. Currency exchange rates hid the profit that Scripture forbade to name. Thus, the Church condemned usury while quietly profiting from it everywhere. Pilgrimage routes became highways of commerce stretching across all Europe. The Vatican Mint struck its own coins, trusted across all of Europe's markets. Papal florins carried the Church's seal, a currency backed by faith itself. Merchant guilds paid the Church for charters that licensed their trade. Every cathedral built was also a construction firm employing thousands. Stonemasons, glaziers, and carpenters drew wages from church treasuries. Wills across Europe left fortunes to the Church, funneling inheritances to Rome. Bequests of land and gold made the Church the heir of an entire continent. Chantry chapels charged families to pray eternally for their departed souls. Even death became a subscription, paid in gold for masses without end. The Church financed universities, controlling learning and its lucrative fees. Bishops doubled as feudal lords, commanding castles, armies, and vast rents. The papacy played kingmaker, crowning emperors in exchange for loyalty and gold. Excommunication was a weapon, freezing a ruler out of trade and legitimacy. Interdicts silenced whole nations, closing churches until debts were paid. The Crusades became vast fundraising campaigns for the Roman treasury. Crusade taxes drained kingdoms, funneling war wealth back to the papacy. The Knights Templar guarded pilgrims and pioneered international banking. Pilgrims deposited gold in one country and withdrew it in another. This network of letters and credit anticipated modern global banking. Kings borrowed heavily from the Church, mortgaging crowns and future revenues. The papal treasury kept ledgers rivaling any modern bank, tracking every coin flowing into Rome. Papal tax collectors traveled every road, auditing dioceses and demanding Rome's share. The apostolic camera served as the Church's central bank, managing debts and revenues worldwide. Italian banking families like the Medici grew rich as the papacy's trusted financiers. When banks collapsed, they dragged the papal fortune down with them. Church offices themselves were sold, each bishopric a price paid in gold. This trade in holy positions, called simony, filled Rome's coffers for centuries. Then a monk named Luther nailed his protest against indulgences to a church door. The Reformation shattered the monopoly, splitting Europe's faith and its wealth. Northern kingdoms seized church lands, ending Rome's grip on their treasuries. Luther's 95 Theses spread across Europe faster than any message before, carried by the new printing press. Each printed copy was a bullet aimed at Rome's most profitable business, the sale of forgiveness. As doubt spread, the flow of indulgence gold slowed to a trickle, and Rome felt the loss immediately. German princes, long resentful of Rome's taxes, saw their chance to keep the wealth at home. One by one, entire regions stopped sending their tithes down the road to Italy. The papacy's central bank saw its richest revenue streams vanish almost overnight. A trillion-dollar empire, built over 5 centuries, teetered because of complaints nailed to one door. Rome answered with reform, cutting corruption and ending the open sale of holy offices. Yet the monopoly was broken forever. Faith and capital would never again flow through one hand. The world's first multinational survived, but its age as history's greatest corporation had ended.